Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Drafting to Win. In this episode, we're going to talk about how it's really important to find lethal, and it's not always intuitive, and you have to identify which kind of decks that you're playing that is going to be outvalue your opponent, or can I find lethal and sneak in a win? You can get a lot of wins just by paying attention to the board state and going, what are my outs? What could I possibly draw? What could I possibly play? Could I tap down certain creatures and find the win that I need to do? Because if you miss lethal on turns where you have it, then oftentimes the opponent, when it swings back, they'll outvalue you and they'll end up winning. And so it's really hard for players in a limited format to draft aggressive decks and play very tight and then wonder if they lose, where did it go wrong? It's not just one bad misplay. It's missing the opportunity to end the game when you could have. And that doesn't stick out in our memories as much. So it's good to kind of like record footage and talk about instances where that happens, and hopefully you all watching this can take this into your limited games when you draft like a red-white aggressive deck, and always be on the watch out for lethal. And just constantly top of mind, do I have lethal? Should I be counting it up? And there's a lot of concepts that come out from here, and we'll explore that in these games. So today I have 3 games for you, 3.5. And all of them were instances of finding the lethal at the right moment, and I'll walk through that. The final game is an example of where I lost, but upon further review, I think I had lethal and I missed it. And so that definitely cost me the game because I passed the turn and messed up. So let's get into the games today, and let's get going. All right, I started this game a little bit into it. All I've played is that enchantment that when you sack a creature, it deals 2 damage, and it costs 2 mana. I'm not going to show the draft for this, but it's a red-white, aggressive, sort of mid-range deck. It doesn't have a ton of top end, so you have to... I knew I was going to get outvalued a lot. If I'm playing against anything green, big red, blue and red with the drawing and the cycling deck, I was going to fall behind pretty quickly. So I have lots of 2-drops and 3-drops, and then a fair amount of removal. Here we just go in for as much damage early as we can. We definitely take advantage of the fact when our opponent doesn't play high power creatures or high toughness creatures, because then we can get over the top of them and inflict those points of damage, or put our opponent in a position where they have to make poor blocks. And most people don't do that until it's absolutely required, like they're going to die from the swing. I was able to get a lot of damage in, and this is turn 4. I got to go first, have my opponent at 11 health, and board control. I come from Hearthstone, and in Hearthstone you have to always... A bigger part of that game is controlling the board, and in Magic there are more interactions on instant speed, on drawing, on deck manipulation, on scrying, and planeswalkers, and having permanents such as enchantments and things like that. So I know that coming from Hearthstone, bringing the limited format, it is about board control. And so here, you play 2 creatures that are bigger than his creature, mutate, that looks like a big creature, but then I have removal. Well, that's... Now I have complete control of the board, which allows me to get ahead. I think this is the turn where we identify I could have played for more value, but my opponent has more cards, so they could get ahead of me. So it's important that we really look for how we're going to end this game before our opponent plays something like a 5/5 creature. If my opponent played something with just enough power and high toughness, I wouldn't be able to get through it, and I'm out of removal in my hand. So there you saw it. I was able to find the lethal. I cycled. I played a card. We'll watch it again so I can sort of talk through it. I know that I have a cycling card in my hand. I know I have Snare Tactician. Play the Snare Tactician. And at first I almost played the Fox because I think, oh, it could get bigger. But instead, cycle it away, tap the creature down. Boom, find lethal. If I hadn't done that, it's a good chance I wouldn't have won that game. All right, the next game we have is skipping through game 2. By the way, this was not a good deck. I did not get a lot of wins. But I did find lethal in certain turns where it wasn't always appropriate to do. Like, I probably wouldn't have. I could have missed it very easily. And so because I got it on footage, I can talk about it. Here, this is a really good opening hand. I know I'm going to cycle away the Coordinated Charge, then play the Snare Tactician. And the reason you play the Snare Tactician is because it has 2 power, and so you get that extra damage in early. Okay, that was a mistake on my part. I should have cycled away the Coordinated Charge. Oh, you know what? Maybe not, because now I have the Snare Tactician, so I can get value out of cycling away the Coordinated Charge. I think that's why I did that. If I was struggling for lands, it would have been the right move to cycle it away, so you're looking and fixing your deck. But I look pretty good here. I'm going to have 4 mana, and that covers just about everything of importance in my deck. Okay. Here we play the Flourishing Fox and the Caprador. And the point of this turn is just to develop the board, because we have removal and we have follow-up, and we can also make our board better if we cycle away the Coordinated Charge. You kind of have to know if this turn you're going to be the one. Is it the time to develop the board? Is it the time to remove? Or is it the time to play aggressive? Or is it time to play defensive? You kind of have to have all these things going on. And most of the time you don't really get an option in it. You're just, especially in limited, forced to play what's in your hand that's the best play. And there might be like 3 options, and you got to choose one of 3. That's pretty easy. But sometimes you have like 6 or 7 ways to approach it, and that's when it gets complicated. That's kind of what this series is all about, just sort of breaking down those instances when we can see it on here. I think Porcuparrot is the right move here. I might go with Rumbling Rockside, but yeah, just developing the board seems to be the better move here. And I believe I can do the Porcuparrot mutated on top of the Stormwild Caprador and cycle away the Coordinated Charge. Alright, for whatever reason I decided against it. Probably just to have an extra creature on board. And having a 3/4, even though it's not a flyer, is better than my opponent's board right now. If I could go back, I probably would have just mutated it onto the Stormwild Caprador. Looking at this now, I think that would have been the better play. Because even the Rumbling Rockslide that you just saw, I don't think would have killed the Stormwild Caprador. Imposing Vantasar is such a good card for these small red-white decks because it's a potential for top end at 6 mana. You can just lay down a 3/6 creature with Vigilance, which is totally fine in these types of decks. But most of the time, and I'm talking like 70% of the time for me, I am cycling it away for 1. Just so I can churn through my deck and get to what I actually need. Alright, we can kind of skip ahead. I end up cycling things away, grab the Fire Prophecy, removal. It's kind of a risky move, actually, throwing away this Stormwild Crapper. But we found something anyway. So here we're falling behind, but we have board state. So we don't have as many cards. So our opponent, especially with these colors, I think I've already mentioned it into this video, red and white, being able to cycle away stuff, they probably will outvalue us. So I feel the pressure at this point. I really got to get my opponent down and have to end this game sooner than later. Okay, cycling stuff away gives the opponent more time to develop and do exactly what they want to do. Because I'm an aggressive deck, I do not want to allow people to do what they want to do. I have to almost stop that. In a weird way, if you think about it, aggressive decks and control decks are both trying to stop the opponent from doing something. In control, it's obvious. I don't counter things, remove things, and don't allow them to play the style they want. But in aggro, you are controlling the board, and they can't find and do what they want to do, and you have to kill them before they're able to develop their board. So in a way, you're controlling the game, but you do it from turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then find, like, what am I trying to say? Like evasive ways to get to that final 6-10 points of lethal. Okay, this game got interesting right here at this point. He got me down to 1 HP, but I have board presence. I know I have to go all out to end this game as soon as possible. So you're going to see me swinging with everything, making very risky moves. And if my opponent draws something off the top of the deck that's able to remove my 1 creature that's untapped, so be it. But I have to play in such a way that, opponent has 14 life. We got to end this in like 2 or 3 turns so they don't draw the right thing off the top of the deck. And I'm not going to be drawing anything amazing from here on out, just because I know that's design of my small, crappy, aggressive deck. Clash of Titans, interesting card here. It would be able to remove the Snare Tactician. You have to be really careful with your attacks here, because that Cloud Piercer, the 5/4, has reach, so I can't swing with my flyer. And I have to do this dance of semi-bluffing that I have something, and I do have something, but it's not entirely a get-out-of-jail-free card like win the game. And this could go off the rails really quickly. Like, my opponent could definitely find a large number of cards to win. So they've tapped it down my creature, and if they swing, they win. So I know I have to kill off the Snare Tactician and block the Cloud Piercer. I thought for a long time, how could I maximize my card and do a 2-for-1 without dying? It looks like I cannot kill the Cloud Piercer. So I go with killing off as much as possible while blocking. And I'm really hoping I draw something that allows me for lethal next turn. I don't quite find it, but it's removal. It's a really good instance here. That was a really good card. And we somehow found it. So playing to our outs, yeah, I think you saw everything, and I said everything I wanted to say about that game. So, all right, we're gonna buzz through this next loss, and then we're gonna start with this game. It's kind of a quicker video usually than my other Drafting to Win series, but kind of making a smaller point for this one. If you want to see the other Drafting to Win videos, I kind of start with the draft and go through the entire thing. And very soon in the next couple days, you're going to see a 7-win red-white deck that I drafted right after this deck that didn't do so well. But we get to learn something from every run. So, all right, let's get into the game. Opponent starts off a little bit like with more stuff, and it's weird. They're not being aggressive, but they're setting themselves up for that graveyard outvaluation deck. So I'm not getting like aggro down, but I already know with the colors that I'm seeing that they could get big real fast and then start getting stuff out of the graveyard. So I do feel the pressure that I gotta develop, I gotta attack, and I have to get them down to 0 as soon as possible. And that's kind of the game plan to the only way to win this game. It's not going to be from waiting a long time. I'm not screwed on lands at this point, but my opponent is looking really solid with they're kind of developing very easily and very smoothly. Okay, swing out. So I feel ahead at this point because I have 4 cards in hand, 3 of which are good. And my opponent only has 3 cards now. Okay, that's a good card. Opponent's in interesting colors. Sultai. Ability to mutate, ability to get stuff out of the graveyard. They can do a lot of things. Okay, cycle that away. Get some value out of the cycle. Okay. I'm looking here at Clash of the Titans, but I don't have any strong plays. Clash of Titans, you almost always want a 2-for-1. And a lot of times you can get 3-for-1 during attacks. There's no really good pacifism targets yet, but I know I want to get damage in, so it's a weird board state. They have just enough spread out that they're not going to be killing me, but they have a lot of room that they could be growing bigger and getting out of hand. I'm at a point here where I can afford to trade because I have just more cards in my hand. And I don't want to stay passive. If I stay passive, the opponent's board state could get real big, real fast, and there's no way around. I don't have that much removal in this deck that I can get around it very easily. But I do have the pacifism. Okay, opponent uses a card to get ahead in that exchange, and that's fine with me because it's kind of a card for a card. And my board state is still fine. It's not great against what he or she has. Okay, that was a good time to pacifism because it's just feeling the pressure a little bit. And try to be very aggressive with putting the damage on the opponent before they mutate and make bigger creatures. They have the mana to do so. And now they have options so they can find exactly what they want. Okay. So now it's looking bad. This is exactly what I was scared of doing of happening. So it's kind of priority to defeat that creature. And I don't feel as good about trading for a token here. Okay. So coordinated charge at this point with the mana that I have up, it might be worth playing instead of cycling it away. I get value either way. But I might be able to find lethal if I use coordinated charge. Okay, I decided on Clash of Titans, I think. This wasn't the strongest play, because all I'm using is Clash of Titans to remove the 2/2. And for some reason, my opponent played a card that did not help them. And so we traded 2 cards for 2 cards. Okay. I don't have a lot of damage coming in, but I do feel like okay about this because I have a flyer, so they have to find just the right card. That's not it. But it's something. It now makes it so I'm on an 11 turn clock as opposed to a 5 or 6 turn clock. Snare Tactician was an awesome pickup at this point because I know I have the coordinated charge to cycle away and tap them down and swing out. It's also a 2/3, which goes right over the top of their board. And then having 2 extra damage a turn in a position like this is like huge. It's like 200% more. Okay, they found something. They were able to mutate. And I have to decide here when the right time to cycle away the coordinated charges versus using it. Because I may draw like a pacifism or something, remove their creature, and then I still have the coordinated charge to swing out for lethal. I think here the safest option is just to use the coordinated charge to cycle it away. Oh, look at that. Pacifism. And here you got to count up to see if coordinated charge is going to be lethal. And it is. Yeah, so that's all about finding lethal and um, making sure you play an aggressive deck. Look, aggressive aggro is harder than control because control gives you options. Um, if you don't counter the right thing, you may be able to board wipe later. So it's not a big deal, or remove the enchantment or whatever it is. Remove the planeswalker. You have time to let things go, and you're playing for the late game. Aggro doesn't afford you the same possibilities. You have to play as soon as possible, and in that way, like a really good aggro players get more reps in because they can play more games quicker and identify their mistakes on those first couple turns. But it's also harder for kind of the average player, or if you're a limited drafter and you regularly go 2 wins, 3 wins, 4 wins, and you rarely get to 6 or 7 wins, then maybe you have troubles with aggro. But it's worth learning and taking just a moment out of your turns to find the best way to zerg your opponent down, as opposed to just blindly playing with whatever's in your hand, is really important, and it'll get you those extra wins. So that's all I have. If you guys want to stick around for an extra game, I'm gonna look up, let's see, the next game is game 6, and here I'm Miss Lethal. We'll just go through it a little bit. Okay, big board state here, 17 health to 17 health. Keep it going. Opponent had these annoying flyers with mutate, and I was pacifism. I put a pacifism on him, but he still just had bigger and bigger creatures. Okay. We'll watch from here. 11 health to 8 health. I have weaponized the monsters. I'm looking for every out, just because I'm not going to win the board, so I have to survive. They've got 2 creatures attacking for 6 each turn. The 2 creatures in the middle have pacifism. I have this card, Mythos of Valrock. This Mythos card deals 5 damage at sorcery speed. So if I deal 5 damage to the face and attack for 2, I would win. But I can do weaponize the masters, kill off one of my creatures, deal 2 damage to them. And so if I just played this card, done 5 damage, and weaponized the masters, I would have won. But I ended up not doing that. And I have the mana open and everything. So here they put on just enough to find lethal. And I saw it right there. Boom. All right. GG. Can't win them all. I make mistakes all the time. But I've got the video after this for drafting the win is going to be about another red-white deck that got 7 wins. And we're going to go through the draft process. We're going to go through... it's a mid-range deck, so we were aggressive some games, we were passive the other games, and we found our way to 7 wins, 2 losses. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys learned. If you have any questions on exactly how to find lethal or how you should be thinking, or just specific questions about this game, I want to go micro, I want to go macro, I want to talk about Magic on a turn-by-turn basis or a match-by-match basis, or we could talk about different sets. Anything you guys want. I'm a small channel. I'm trying to grow, and any comments you have, just drop them below. Interact, subscribe, like videos, share them. If you find the content good, tell me or tell someone else, and I can continue on certain things. I can make longer videos, shorter videos. I'm looking for that feedback, and I find these things a lot of fun to make, and I just love Magic. And I hope you like some of the other things on the channel too. So thanks, guys. See you another time.